He is alive. He is alive. Let's go do some mic check work. Make sure things are working. Trying to use a fancy mic. Okay, I think we're good. So I I'm gonna do a I'm gonna do the topic will be I'm gonna piggyback on the open mic with Father Eric and Mark. And all I did was look at the title, but I'm gonna ramble. I don't have a lot of time because I'm a husband and a father and employee and I help coach and stuff. But I am an authority and a leader to one degree or another with various amounts of skill, hoping to get better. But this is the topic. And now I will wait. I need to find. There's some. There we. I thought I had background. I thought I had some way to. Video clips? Yeah, here it is. So I'll be back in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. I got tired of it. I got tired of it. All right. Take this thing out of my ear until I share a link. I plan to share a link. And maybe there's a chat afterwards. The topic is authority. By the way, that video is a picture of the view I have. So if I open this window, I can look out there and I can see it. It's I like it. It's I grew up on a river, going to the river actually. Now I'm on the river, and um, my father called the river church, but I learned how to catch some fish at certain times of the year in certain ways, and I got to go with my wife Kim to uh, float the river, and I guess yeah, I could share. I made a little short to share with people for our trip, but we got out there on the river and she caught a fish and she's like, "It's a competition." And then we proceeded, and by the end of the day, I caught 23 black bass, a bunch of spotted bass and red eye bass, and Kim had caught 5 bass. And so I'm a bit of an authority on this specific river and catching these fish at this time of the year. So I'm not an authority on fishing as a whole, even though I know how to tie some knots, and use certain kinds of rods and reels. But that's how it usually plays out with authorities and leaders. Now, just because I know how to catch a fish doesn't mean I'm good at helping other people catch a fish. There's all kinds of skills that go into that. And so, different people um, are authorities in different things. And just because you're an authority in something does not mean you're an authority at leading others in that thing. Like leadership is its own category. And I'm not very good at it, even though I'm a husband and father and I am a leader, just I'm not a great one. While we were fishing, I saw a kingfisher, and I told Kim, I said, I wish my nickname was Kingfisher. And, you know, because I had been catching all these fish, she thought I was, she replied as if, I was saying I am the king of fishing. But what I'm really interested in is fishing for kings. You know, I want to be able to fish. Uh, I want to be able to fish for. Jacob just chimed in. You are confusing authority and expertise. Jacob is an authority of a language that is impure. I'll let you come in, Jacob. I'm going to share a link soon. Um, um, also, I just had a message over here. You are confusing authority and expertise. Yeah, so I might be, and I do that, and because I'm not a great leader, and I use language in ways that is confusing. Ultimately, because I am not good at understanding the thoughts of other people. Um, I need help from others. So I appreciate Jacob throwing in some help, something to consider, and I benefit from help. People tossing in things like this. Because I use language in confusing ways often. So I'm talking about expertise. I agree. I am talking about expertise, and I was combining the two categories. And we can talk about authority. So I'm talking about expertise. Um, one big mistake that we can make is that we can, and I've done it, is we can begin to think that our way of thinking uh, is the best way. This is something that I see many people doing. And so, for example, my mind will think about complex systems, and it will not naturally think about the thoughts that are happening within another person. Whereas, my wife, she naturally considers the thoughts that are happening in another person, and her mind doesn't do the thing my mind does. And so there can be a temptation within each of us to think that the other person is making some kind of has a shortcoming, and we do. But we can ignore our own shortcomings and think the other person needs to be more like us. And so the reason I'm talking about this ultimately is because I do know an expert in artificial intelligence who I've been working with. And he pointed at this 2027 study. And it kind of got to him because a person who is considered good at predicting the future in artificial intelligence because they made a prediction about ChatGPT like 2 years before ChatGPT was able to do what it did. This person is predicting a kind of bleak future. And my AI expert is also, he is just kind of surprised that there's like 10% of the people in artificial intelligence who believe that it would be good for humans if we disappeared and gave birth to something greater than ourselves. And so he's on Team Humanity, so that's good. I tried to communicate to him the fact that people have different ideas about what is ultimately good, and it sounds like this religion that wants to give birth to the next thing that is greater than humans is upholding something like intelligence as ultimate. And I had mentioned that it can get extreme, and you can see it in all religions. You can see a kind of extremism. And I told him, I said, the main thing that's really dangerous is when we start to uh, disregard the people who disagree with us. When we disregard the people who disagree with us, and then it gets really extreme, we'll start killing each other over the fact that we disagree about what's ultimate. So I'm gonna, yeah. I think leadership is a skill. There's expertise there. Authority, obviously, I'm not. I'm being confusing according to Jacob, so I'm going to open it up. I'm going to let people come in and talk about this word authority, what they think about it, how it's different than expertise, and where I might be wrong, and where I might be able to learn something about this word authority. So I'm going to share an invite. Let's see. Chazi, shalom, peace. I love peace. And yon God. You can't eat a difference in voltage. All right, so let me share, give people a chance to come in and talk about authority and leadership. Here we go. I guess I'll go. What's interesting is you can go to different dictionaries and get different definitions. And then there's a question of which dictionary to trust. And so maybe authority is related to this word trust. Define authority. So Google says there's a noun, the power or right to give orders, make decisions, and enforce obedience. So that's slightly different than the way the word authority is used in the IT space, like in the tech space. Like there are these certificate authorities that help us make sure that you can put credit card information on websites. And so it's a different kind of authority in the IT space than what Google's giving you. And number 2 definition for authority is a person or organization having power or control in a particular, typically political or administrative sphere. So these kind of connecting words are power and control. And notice the word trust didn't get used. Decision making, I would say, yeah, it's interesting that there's not this word trust didn't get used in the Google. I'm going to go to Merriam-Webster. Looks like I can go to Cambridge, dictionary.com, Britannica. Let's see. I think these words are very powerful, and the vocabulary, like the definitions of words, changes your entire worldview. All right. Authority. Power to influence or command thought, opinion, or behavior. Power to influence or command thought, opinion, or behavior. That's an interesting one, like when you are the coach or a manager. And also I've been noticing, like, yeah, there's authority is given, and it's often given in ways which are in error. Definition 2 on Merriam-Webster is persons in command is A, and B, a governmental agency or corporation to administer a revenue-producing public enterprise. Number 3 says grounds warrant convincing force. So the word convincing is it's near the word influence, near the word trust. Number 4. Yeah, we're getting out in left field. Let's see. I'm going to Cambridge.org. The moral or legal right or ability to control. What's interesting is in that definition is that legal and moral are not. They can be in conflict. So a legal authority can be doing immoral things. And then who's the judge of morality, right? Back to the 10% of AI experts who want to see the birth of the intelligence, the new forms of intelligence that are greater than humans and aren't scared if humanity disappears. A group of people with official, that word official, responsibility for a particular area of activity. Now, where are they speaking about trust or trustworthiness? Here's one. An expert on a subject. So Cambridge.org has a definition about an expert on a subject. So I'm not completely wrong. According to some trusted authorities who are not Jacob Petrovicci. Let's see. Dictionary.com. Noun. The power to determine, adjudicate, or otherwise settle issues or disputes. Jurisdiction, the right to control, command, or determine. So I do have I've been using my authority in interesting ways where I ignore the structure, the existing normal power structures that people respect and obey. And I will meet expectations within the existing power structure, and then I'll go outside of it and attempt to do good with the help of others. And then it ends up causing the people within the existing structure to, it shapes them. And so there is a way of being an authority without actually looking like an authority within some picture of a org chart. Quite interesting. Let's see. A power or right delegated or given. A person or body of persons in whom authority is vested as a governmental agency. An accepted source of information, advice, etc. A quotation or a citation from such a source. An expert on a subject. So number 7 on dictionary.com. Number 8 is persuasive force. There's so many definitions. Ooh, I like number 11. Mastery and execution or performance as of a work of art or literature or a piece of music. Number 13, testimony, witness. Let's see. And then there's Britannica. And they use this word legitimate. That's the first time I've seen legitimate. All right, we got someone. I heard a beep. Jonathan.
Gavin.
You are authority and leader.
Someone's got to do it.
All right, do it.
What are you getting at with the stream, or I guess with the question of authority and leadership?
Oh well, I mean, there's a capacity for recognition of expertise, which I think I've developed skill at doing over the years.
Yeah.
And then there's also these, yeah, there's different domains of expertise which seem very relevant for distributing cognition and distributing trust and extending trust.
Okay.
Um, I mean, ultimately, I've always been interested. If you've known me for a long time, you know I've had a special interest in peace on Earth. So in order to get there, though, there has to be kind of recognition, the proper extension of trust to those who are true experts within their domains.
How do you validate that?
There's some cool tricks that I've learned. So I like bringing in two people who would claim to be experts and then listen to them and try to poke them and provoke them and ask the questions so that I can find out where they disagree, where they agree.
But
Uh,
how would you be able to evaluate that? Like if you watch a debate between two people, I'm assuming they're on like a debate with two sides, right? And then you have to
I would want to be
ascertain
uh,
who won or where the truth lies. Like how do you figure that out?
yeah, that's where it's nice to be a mediator so that you don't have some set rules where you're selecting for a skill at communication, right? And influence, right? That is a skill, communication and influence. But what you can
Sure.
do is you can, uh, for me, what I do is I try to ask questions such that they can lead me to an understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so some red flags might be things like it's obvious, right? When people say things like it's obvious, you know that they don't have the um, well, they are avoiding the process of explaining the conclusion, right?
Obviously. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's rhetorical tricks, right? So debate. You know, I guess I brought up the debate format, which has its drawbacks. So, like, what's the right forum? What's the right medium for figuring things out?
Ideally, there would be. I mean, I've always wanted people to have the opportunity to raise their hand as someone who believes they have expertise, and then to uh, enter into the process by which they learn that they truly don't have expertise, um, or can demonstrate expertise. Right. So there would be a kind of the engineered environment by which people are cured of their delusions and expertise is identified.
But that's a learned behavior now. Like we all know better. We all know to say, "Oh, I don't know anything."
What?
That's how you know I'm wise because I profess my ignorance.
Hey, Jacob.
You got me up at 7:30 in the morning because this is such an interesting topic.
It is an interesting topic. It's a relevant it is relevant. If I
Oh,
said,
it
yeah.
it goes to the heart of like 90% of what I think is most important in the world. Um, I am not surprised that. So when I said you are confusing authority and expertise, I wasn't saying, "Oh, you're doing something that other people wouldn't do." Um, Distinguishing between authority and expertise is difficult, um, and the two terms are, when used properly as terms of art, I think distinguish something important. Um, Something I wrote: people with expertise should have authority, and vice versa. Unfortunately, that is too rarely the case because we have difficulty assessing expertise and assigning authority, which is precisely what I think Jonathan was getting at right now.
Is that what you were getting at, Jonathan?
Not on purpose, but I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, I think expertise is, yeah, qualitatively different than authority. Authority and leadership is maybe the more interesting question, which is what you titled your stream,
Yeah.
and what Mark and Father Eric were talking about last night.
Did you listen to the things they were saying and have some kind of like way of providing a short analysis of?
Well, that's a tough question. The short analysis of Mark. No.
What about Father Eric?
He's a good sport.
Yeah.
I mean,
He plays the priest class, right?
he facilitates the monologue. Yeah. So I don't know. I jumped on this stream because I had a free cycle, and I happen to rarely do I listen to Father Eric streams, not casting any aspersions on anybody, but I happened to catch that one last night for a little while.
Busy people. I think I prefaced early on as like, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a coach, I'm an employee. It's like it's not that I don't love and like these people, or that if I had the time I wouldn't love and like these people. I only have so much time during the day. For sure.
Yeah. So I happened to hear it. I happened to listen to it for a little while. It was an interesting topic. Then you started a stream this morning, and I was like, okay, like this is maybe in the ether right now. So thought I would just jump on and see what you were thinking about that. But
I mean, I experience it in the family, at work, on the soccer field. Like, I experience these kinds of ideas just every day. Authority, leadership, expertise.
Yeah. So like, like why are we all so preoccupied with this question?
I think it's because we sense kind of an opportunity for it to get better, for there to be a better way of, as Jacob pointed out in this quote, identifying and assigning, identifying expertise. The expertise and authority should be connected. That we ought to be able to identify expertise and assign authority accordingly. That's what we can all hope for. Obviously, it's hard. I use the word obviously.
So that's a
which I said when we use the word obvious, or this root word obvious, it's an indicator of a lack of expertise. So I think that we're wanting there to be expertise in doing this activity of identifying expertise and assigning authority.
Can you be an authority on something without expertise?
I think.
Can you actually be an authority on something and not have expertise?
I think there is a way to delegate. There are ways to delegate trust to those who have expertise and authority. So you don't, but have developed some skill or inherited something that allows you to extend trust with skill.
Sure, like I can trust an authority without having the expertise. But what I'm asking is, does that authority, whether like assuming it's in a person, does that person have to have expertise in that area in which they are an authority, regardless of whether or not they're trustable, or you have a means of trusting, or a sort of a path to understanding that authority? Like, is it a useful distinction to talk about authority and expertise as separate things? I mean, you can have expertise without authority, I suppose. I don't really know what that. Maybe that's just a lack of
Well,
exercising of power or some kind of an activation of that expertise, right? I can be an expert in some field without being an authority in that field because I haven't published in it. I don't lecture in it. I don't influence anybody or get involved in it, but I can still be, a hobbyist.
well, I think we're dealing with the reality of the situation is that trust is extended to people who have no expertise and don't care for expertise. And so those people that we extend trust to are given the name authority, even though I would say that it's kind of a lie, even though this is the vernacular, right?
What's an example of an authority that you trust or should trust but don't have expertise?
An authority you should trust.
Well, I guess what you were just saying is that there are authorities out there who don't have expertise. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I mean, I like the language is confusing because I can imagine different ways to interpret what you're saying. Because I actually believe all people are valuable and have some amount of expertise in something. It's just that people are put into positions that don't align with their expertise and their level of expertise, right? And so there are better candidates for the role, uh, and we aren't interested in the process of identifying the best candidates for roles.
That seems like an impossible task.
To what? I mean, it is impossible to find the best and be perfect, but it's not impossible to try to become better, right? So
Sure.
language is tricky. Yeah, I agree. We're not gonna
So good
be
and better,
perfect.
good and better versus best and worst, or
Yeah,
worse.
yeah. I'm talking about better and worse. And instead of uh, WORSE and better versus WORST and best. I'm not trying to identify the worst and the best, but I'm talking about being interested in better and getting better.
And then, what part of life, bringing this more concrete and practical, like where does this question of authority and expertise and the legitimacy of authority, like where does this manifest and why does it matter?
Every moment of every day in every relationship, I like it always matters whether it's there, whether we are recognizing, opportunity for better, opportunity for worse. Like it's still happening. There's these.
But what are the parts of life right now that lead us to have this particular conversation? You can imagine a world where like we don't care much about authority and leadership and expertise because they're all working, right? Something's broken, yeah.
Right.
So
Or
what are the parts of life that are broken
the
that necessitate this conversation?
where are the squeaky wheels?
Yeah, 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 yeah. We have all this oil. We're like, where do we apply it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for I think the yeah.
Oh, we've got Claire in the peanut gallery. um, yeah, I
Honestly, I think that it comes down to every interaction, and some of the interactions we have are really important. Like, uh, so the most universal is just how to be a good human. Um, but then there's specific roles that we find ourselves in as like a son and daughter, like or neighbor. And
Yeah.
then those are kind of more universals. And then there's the less universal, but still huge categories of, mother, father, they're like, I think I didn't receive a handbook necessarily on how to do this husband father thing. I learned from people who also
I
did
believe
not have
you.
a handbook.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe you.
It would be nice to have a handbook, like a guide. So it's so one of the so the in order to have expertise, like here's where it's become relevant for me is in artificial intelligence, because in using artificial intelligence, I'm documenting, I'm attempting to document expertise such that the artificial intelligence can leverage it as it generates. So it's, I'm using the LLM alongside documentation like guidebooks
Yeah.
to accomplish a task. Whether
Yeah.
I could I could try to scaffold the knowledge and expertise for how to go catch this fish outside, or how to generate something that's useful within a software company. And so we're actually, it's become very relevant to me that this act of documenting expertise and then iterating on it such that it gets better. And it occurs to me like we could do that in parenting, we could do that in husbandry, we could do it like, what's cool about the artificial intelligence is I know that I can get the AI to read my documentation and expertise that I'm trying to like grow. And but when it comes to other humans, when working within an organization of humans, we often can ignore expertise because we're strapped for time, or whatever excuse we have. It's hard. It's actually hard to encounter expertise and then face the things where you might have disagreements, and then somehow reconcile and redeem, uh, to take a humble step, to learn. Like true diversity is good, but hard. Like where we actually have disagreements and then somehow navigate that. It takes time and skill. Like
Yeah.
Democratic Party is not a diverse party. Like the fact that it's a party kind of excludes it from. It's like that. It looks colorful when my friend he said, "Look at the Republican Party and the pictures here, and look at the Democratic Party and look at the pictures here." And it's like one's diverse. It's like, well, if you just look at colors and genders, sure.
Well, there's different dimensions of diversity, right?
No, there's depth. There's like I want the deep diversity where when someone comes in and challenges you, your fundamental assumptions, that
It's tough to have a political party with that much diversity, though.
yeah,
So,
it is tough. It will be tough. Yeah.
one thing Vervaeke said, which always rings in my mind, is any two things are alike and dissimilar in an infinite number of ways, and it's true. The question becomes how you define diversity of what, right? Yeah, a group of millions of people like the Democratic Party is going to be diverse in on some axis. You have millions of people. I am sure there's an axis you could find where there's like quantitatively at least 10,000 different points, distinct points that those millions of people could fall on. But the question becomes, is that a relevant quantitative measure? And why are you doing it quantitatively as opposed to qualitatively? Right? All of those things, right? Um, but going back to authority and
Can I,
expertise,
can I toss one thing in there? I would like it if there was a political party that kind of come together around this idea that we were all created in God's image and that God is real and God is good.
people have really tried that. The problem with that is that it's not specific enough to be a platform.
Yeah, we'd have to grow from there, but it's like a good foundation to start on.
I mean that's a whole other conversation
Well,
we
you
can
were just saying
get
that like
into.
we need something to share our to have some common ground, kind of like the temple in the center of the community.
But we also need something which distinguishes us, right? Like
Yeah.
I am for the being good. Yeah, the being good is being is good party. Yeah, that's like good things are good, bad things are bad. Platitudes and claptrap, like those have been tried. Those don't work
What about
because
Team Humanity? Where it'd be good for Team Humanity to
Same
continue.
same same problem.
so Gavin,
There are
how
people against Team
Gavin,
Humanity, though.
Gavin, Gavin, Gavin. How much would you like to watch and basketball league where there was only one team?
Can they play a scrimmage?
I love scrimmages.
Yeah, your point stands.
It's like in like this idea that opposition is bad. It's like wanting your arm only to have biceps and no triceps.
I never, but I'm not saying opposition is bad. I'm actually saying opposition is good.
Okay, so we need so the things we already agree on. Yeah, the Democrats and Republicans agree. Peace is good. You know, uh, hu- human beings deserve rights. Like, okay,
And but they have no way for people to raise their hand and say, "I'm an expert on peace."
okay, so that's a whole other thing. That's completely that goes back to
But,
what I was
but
saying about assigning authority, like and assessing expertise. That's completely different.
if so, it would be good if there was a political party that cared for expertise.
Well, that's what the Democrats claim they are. And in fact, that's what the Republicans used to claim they were. And the Democrats then started claiming that they were. And the problem became that the experts, the expert class, are idiots. Like if anybody watches my Twitter, continuing refrain I post is our intellectuals are idiots with examples. That's part of the problem. That's part of the whole thing with like my hierarchies and me trying to elevate some voices and tamp down others. There's a reason the two of you have uh, admin rights to on my stream to stream on my channel, and plenty of other people do not.
Right. So if we were to look at our network of people, we could that would be more relevant than the Democratic Republican Party. And like, how do we recognize expertise and uphold expertise? Like maybe the question for you, Jacob, would be how did you recognize expertise or who to extend trust to? I know that you don't have a lot of candidates there, first of all. So maybe if you had
Well,
more,
I
more,
actually
yeah.
I do have a lot of candidates. I
But if
mean,
you had 10,000 people trying to get into your Discord server, into your hierarchy,
um,
things would look a little different.
I, there is a reason. There are things I do on my Discord and on my channel which drives the wrong type of people away.
Yeah.
And that's deliberate, right? That's part of having a formation of a community. And Gavin, you uh, first of all, you came recommended by somebody that I find incredibly insightful, which is Sally, the person who painted this lobster here.
Right.
She she's the one who's like, hey, you should check out Gavin, and I did. And um, despite everything, one thing that I have noticed about you, which is very rare, is an explicit desire to correct your mistakes, which, I mean, that is half the battle. Even wanting to correct your mistakes, like very few people have any desire to actually correct their mistakes. I think you might actually go a little overboard with it, but you know what? I would rather have a little bit too much salt than no salt at all. And as far as Jonathan, I mean, Jonathan's just really capable and competent.
Ooh, look at my little blurb. Authority and leader. Says so on the tin. Sometimes you got to call it like you see it.
I pay a lot of attention to people who only speak when they have something to say. Like, people like that will end up in the blues on my Discord really quick. If I see somebody only chimes in every once in a while and says something, Joy was one of the people who was like that. She was on my server for all of one day. Immediately put her into the blue. She doesn't participate very much, but like, she's top level, and I wish it was more obvious to more people. Unfortunately, I don't think she gets. I mean, she's not that involved. Um, she goes on some of the other channels I've seen her, but like, yeah, recognizing expertise and recognizing, well, okay, so there's,
All of these things are perceived,
yeah,
and they're grassroots sort of acknowledged and reified. So, I mean, it takes, in some cases, it takes one to know one, right? So, like, an example I really like is rabbinical authority. There is no Pope of Judaism who says you're a rabbi, you're a rabbi, you're a rabbi, right? Um, there is reputation and all the secondary effects of authority and leadership that come out, and then people notice and people um, respond and respect and acknowledge that, and it becomes you can't fake it. Um, well, you can only fake it to a degree,
okay. I have to say,
right?
like, I don't want to give too rosy a picture of the rabbinate. I
No,
let
it's murky, but the system as a whole works. If you look at the you know the who's who, like in recent history of leadership in Judaism, like everybody knows who the real top people are. There's always a contention in the contemporary kind of world for, like, I don't know, are they legit, are they not legit, like, are they, that's different.
right. So I will say, I was very, very disappointed in how it functions until I saw the grass on the other side, and I was like, oh my god. Everything else I see is so much worse, right? So I have very, very strong critiques. I could give you examples, and there's a lot of nepotism. There is
Sure.
a lot of nepotism.
What's kind of baked in, right, with the family dynasties.
Yeah, which, frankly, ultimately, to some degree, I have become a lot less of a liberal in that sense, because now I appreciate the idea of somebody being raised from childhood with the anticipation and the, as somebody who will be expected to be a leader, right?
Right. Right.
And that sort of hereditary leadership was something I was very opposed to. The idea of like hereditary monarchy to me seemed like, why would you do that?
It's not very American, right? It's kind of,
Not
it's
not American at all. But
yeah.
Was a
now I'm like, I'm I see the problems with it, but I also see that there are reasons. So like I've become a lot more circumspect in seeing the various ways you could do it. But I wanted to go back and let's actually define expertise, authority, and leadership. So these are my definitions. Expertise is knowing, having propositional knowledge about a topic, right? It's, I have some expertise in biblical Hebrew that a lot of people don't have. That's expertise. Authority, and I distinguish authority from authoritarian, which can be difficult for a lot of people. Authority means that people view you as having a legitimate um, a
Expertise.
legitimate position in something. Now, that may be expertise, that may be in decision making, and decision making and expertise are two very different things, right? And leadership, I mean, I was taking this bullshit course in leadership this semester, and I just couldn't take it. I ended up dropping the course. I'm gonna have to take it next quarter, but like the we talk a lot about leadership. We talk a lot about leadership, but leadership, the proof is in the pudding. You
Yeah.
are a leader when other people follow.
I would put leadership, um, and one of the other ones you said, but leadership is a skill in which you can have expertise.
No. Well,
No, I agree with that. There,
but not without, to Jacob's point, you actually have demonstrated the leadership in a truly, like, that's the only way you can actually evaluate leadership characteristics is if you've actually led and you have a following.
well,
Otherwise, you're just brokering in leadering bullshit.
so I mean, those who can do and those who can't teach, there it is very possible to have a stronger procedural grasp on something than a propositional, or vice versa, right? And tying your shoelaces is the perfect example, right? The best way to teach someone to tie their shoelaces is to actually show them how to tie their shoelaces, as opposed to give a propositional description. I was I was like explaining this to a friend of mine who's a mother of two small children, and she's like, no, I actually wrote out instructions, and she did, because she's just that propositional. She wrote out instructions for her daughters on how to tie their shoelaces, right? And you can do that, but guess what? That's not how most people learn. So you can have propositional knowledge about leadership because you read a bunch of books. That doesn't mean you can do it any more than uh, somebody who doesn't have hands could know how to tie their shoelaces, but not be able to do it. So capability to actually execute is very different from being able to describe the qualities of something.
Book learning versus street smarts in some ways.
It would be good, like in my opinion, it would be good if the people with the procedural expertise, as you called it, can also do it. Like I think there are people who can do both. They can have the procedural and can embody it.
You mean propositional?
Yeah. They
Procedural
have. Yeah, I
is
meant propositional. It's good if they have the propositional and can do it. And I think there are people who are the kinds of experts who they have the propositional and they can do it and they can teach it.
So I had a teacher in some of my classes who I was his classes were great. He had great, incredible procedural knowledge of how to do therapy. He did not propositionally understand what he himself was doing. So most of the class was demonstrations. And during the demonstrations, the students would ask him, well, why'd you do this and why'd you do that? And he would give some bullshit answer, which had no relationship to what he actually ended up doing.
Right.
And you get a lot of people like that. And one of the things that I really hate about the Richard Feynman quote, which gets misquoted all the time, the actual quote is, if you can't describe something briefly to a college sophomore, you like he was talking about a college sophomore. People keep on talking about 5-year-olds and 9-year-olds and whatever. Then you don't truly understand it. Um, he was, first of all, he was talking about a college sophomore. Second, he wasn't saying, he was saying like you should be able to describe it. But third, he was absolutely wrong. There are people who know things very, very well and cannot describe it at all, because that's a completely different skill.
Right. I agree. I've actually faced this as a software engineer, going into from an environment where you're in a cube with the headphones on, listening to podcasts while you write software, to working on a team where it was called mob programming, where you would have one person at the keyboard driving, and you would have people behind telling the driver what to do. And so when you were the navigator telling a driver what to do, you had to learn how to communicate. When you have two navigators, the navigators have to be able to discuss the ideas and the reasons why, and they have to be able to communicate to the driver what to do. And it was a lot harder, but it helped me build new skills, right? Beyond just being able to write code, I had to now learn terminology, vocabulary. I had to learn to explain the reasons. And some people do struggle at being able to explain. They said, just do it this way. It'll work. So I would say, ideally, though, your ideal experts are the ones who have the propositional. They can do it and they can teach it. And
Hopefully, yeah. I don't know. So this is the thing is, I have become very, very unhappy with the idea of ideals. Um, that because we are talking about scarce resources, right? So I was talking to a friend of mine, and he works on the front end of a lot of um, websites, right? And so he was telling me how um, one of his uh, one of his bosses wanted to take the underlining off of any links, right? Because he aesthetically didn't like it. And my friend, who has a dyslexic brother, right, was like, hold up here. Those links, that like the underlining helps people with dyslexia a lot, right? And in a perfect world, we would actually, all the websites would be easy to read for all the dyslexics, right? But the question becomes, how much resources are you going to put, and how possible is it to create something that is both aesthetically fresh, pleasing, and captures a large number of people, and take into um, consideration this one particular thing of dyslexia. You know what? There's also color blindness. Or actually, you know what? His brother might be colorblind. Maybe that was what it was.
That would explain why lack of underlines would lead to a blindness of what to link and what's not, because there's no
Yeah. Sorry.
declaration that
Yeah, it's actually his brother's colorblind.
color blindness. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but in any case, um, but yeah, Upcycle says the most brilliant professor I ever had was remarkably ineffective at teaching. Like, so,
I think this is the like an explanation for the Peter principle.
mhm.
It's like often you'll have people who are brilliant, and then they and there's an assumption that because they are brilliant within the skill, they can be promoted into a skill where they now need these new skills, communication skills, relational skills, being able to manage down and manage up. It's like that's just there's a lack of skill in the promoting decision when you do that.
So one of the things we keep on adding requirements for what we want for teachers for our children, right? Everybody talks about how horrible and subpar, at least a lot of people I know, including myself, talk about how subpar the educational system was, how it could be a lot better than it is. But we're educating millions of children, which requires hundreds of thousands of teachers, right? And so, like, it's really hard to get teachers with all the great qualities that we demand and we would want every teacher to have. And we're never going to pay the salaries that we would need to in order for that to be the case.
When you look at a question like that, though, at that high of a level, it's impossible to actually make any traction on it. You have to solve those problems at the more local, granular level. So, I mean, on the teacher front, right? Like, of course, you cannot expect all teachers will be the same uniform level of criteria across the board. You've got to go and agitate within your local school district and with your community and make on the ground hiring and firing decisions in your particular school, and that's how you get better.
Well, Gavin mentioned the Peter Principle, which we probably should describe to people who might not know what that is. And
People are promoted to their level of incompetence.
yeah, people keep on getting promoted until they don't do a great job, which is when they stop getting promoted. And if you just leave the hierarchy in that state, you end up with a bunch of incompetence. The U.S. military actually has various mechanisms to try to stop this from happening. One of which is forced retirement. But the the thing you're pointing to, Jonathan, is subsidiarity, which is
Right.
also really important, which is the idea that everything needs to be solved at the most local level that it can be, and that's a whole other thing to talk about. And a third thing I would bring up is you have to, anytime you are setting the question of for example, who do I want to be my kid's teacher, right? It's very cute to sit down and write out what you want as as your requirements for your teacher. What you actually have to do is look at what your choices are and decide between which choices you have.
Yep.
Now, this is part of the problem of the Dunbar number and how we've, like, in a city like Los Angeles, I don't know who all my choices are, right? So I set bars and criteria, but
There's proxies for those choices.
there are.
There are other criteria that make it a legible decision, or that help guide toward what ultimately ends up being like the specific, what are the best teachers, the best school, and it's all based on other factors that everybody knows. Again, the sort of emergent grassroots criteria that we all learn and understand about how to find competence, authority, and leadership.
I do want to talk about this comment, but to address what you were saying, unfortunately, what has happened in our society is that we have explicit and implicit criteria. The explicit means by which we get better teachers is requiring, for example, a teacher's credential. Whereas I think anybody who knows anything about teaching uh, and teachers knows that, in fact, having a credential, like our credentials have become anti-credentials,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
The fact somebody has a credential makes me more likely to believe they don't know what they're doing than if they don't have a credential. And part of that is the fact that if somebody gets hired despite a credential, oh, there's a reason why this person is a teacher despite the fact they don't have a credential, is that they actually, like, people have used other factors to get them into there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's kind of akin to Nassim Taleb talks about, like, hire the doctor who doesn't look like a doctor. Now, I don't know if that doesn't, I don't know if that works anymore, right? That all those things are subject to change, but the idea is you're trying to figure out who had to work against all the superficial and bullshit criteria that get you to where you are, so you can actually make an evaluation on something real and concrete, and that's the
In the 30s, 40s, and 50s, 1930s, 40s, and 50s, black doctors, female doctors, were the most competent, and people knew that.
Yep.
Now we make the opposite assumption.
Well, now that criteria has been not arbitraged away, but it doesn't have the same.
Yeah, it's been
Doesn't work.
destroyed. Yeah,
Doesn't work anymore.
it's been destroyed. But KL said the greatest expert alive is still shit at predicting the future. Is this even a debate? Predicting the future is not a very good criterion. I have to. So I'll tell this story again. As an insurance broker, I went to a business to insure them for fire insurance, and they didn't have circuit breakers. They had a different form of, like, an older type of, I forget what it's called. It's
Fuses.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So they didn't have circuit breakers, and I'm like, I can't insure this unless you get circuit breakers. 2 years later, that business owner, like, I met the business owner somehow. I forget what it was, and he says to me, "You could have had my insurance for the past 2 years. It didn't burn down. You would have gotten money for nothing."
Yeah, sure. In retrospect, that's easy to say.
It's beyond silly to say, right? Because
you know that, but does he? Yeah.
Well, he obviously doesn't get it.
There's a binary difference in people who understand that and don't understand that.
Well,
it's not a gradation. It's just it's. I don't know, and I don't know how to cross that chasm.
Look,
you can't convince those people because they're right in the context in which they're coming from. Anyway, I don't want to derail your point, but
no, but like, if I'm assessing that there's a 1% chance of something happening, and then it didn't happen, was I wrong?
No, you weren't wrong. There was still a 1% chance. You'll admit that there was a 99% chance it wouldn't
There's,
happen.
Yeah.
I mean,
I rem-
predicting the future is not the skill. Managing the future is the skill.
And there on that note, there is a skill at predicting outcomes. Like if you are an engineer and you are able to predict cost and to go about that process of being able to lay out a plan that is predictable and have a success rate, like that happens. There's a skill in that, and similarly, there's a skill in math and looking at probabilities, assessing risk and reliability.
Well, that's not predicting the future.
Right, it isn't, but I'm treating them different. But there are skills there that, and what I wanted to point out is like I went to public school and I got to see so much lack of skill. Like there's
I went to
it's
private school and I saw the same thing for what it's worth.
it's well,
Go on.
It would be interesting if there was some way of I think it happens in some countries where you basically get put on paths towards roles in society depending on your skills. Like there would be
Yeah.
there would be at least an encouragement and a door open, so that there would be a general awareness that no, if you lack this skill, then you can't do this thing, right? You can't actually do this thing unless you have this like required skill.
Yeah.
So here, Rabbi Mullet. Hello, Rabbi Mullet. Rabbi Mullet teaches second grade, and frankly, I can't imagine having a second grade rabbi as good as Rabbi Mullet for my kids. Probably because I can't afford to go to whatever school he teaches at, because I am sure that school is paying is definitely paying more than the vast majority of places pay their teachers, right?
Right.
But I get all the time people complaining about, like, I see it all the time, people who, especially people who have moved away from the Hasidic or Haredi community, and they're like, yeah, my teachers were bad in XYZ ways. And it's like, okay, what are you comparing that to? I actually went to public school. And I don't know if you guys watched the interview with Frida Wiesel that was linked yesterday. Dawn linked it on my Discord. It's actually really interesting. The woman who was being interviewed, I forget her name, but she grew up Hasidic. She left that life. Now she's a professor, right? And she says she actually feels shame for how critical she was of the Hasidic lifestyle, because she imagined the secular, like anything that was not it, being much better, right? And now that she sees from the inside what the other one is like, she's like, oh, no, you guys, like, I was being childish and overcritical and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? And that happens. Did I destroy the conversation?
No.
No, I'm asking Rabbi Mullet a question in the chat. I got distracted.
Yeah, Chezi, are you going to stream this week, Chezi? Huh, Chezi? Rabbi Mullet, random question. Did I hear you say once that your rabbi was the late Zacharia Wallerstein Zatzal? You almost did the Zatzal correctly. Or Am I thinking of something else?
That was him. Wow.
Yeah, you're the one who introduced me to Rabbi Wallerstein. Yeah.
There's like multiple, right? Not to be confused with Rabbi Wallerstein. So that's the problem. There's a lot of them.
I
A lot of Rabbi Wallersteins out there. Oh, I missed I missed the double quote. But if you copy paste from any source on the internet, they don't put that in there every time.
Yeah, usually people do ZL. I mean, ZTL just. I mean ZTZL because it's Zatzal.
Well, and
Za-
remind me what that means in Hebrew. Like blessed
Zecher
memory.
Tzadik Lebracha. Zecher means memory. Tzadik means saint or righteous person. Lebracha means is as a blessing.
Okay, so Zechariah is the famous one, but Zechariah is a different name.
Don't know who you're talking about.
Sorry.
Zachariah is the famous one as opposed to who?
The one I mentioned, which is spelled differently. Zecharia.
Oh, they may
Oh,
have.
same person.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, I see. He is the famous one. Okay.
Yeah.
So, so something that can be done within an organization with bad hierarchy is you can potentially you can do retrain, or you can do reorg, or you can as an individual meet expectations and work in parallel towards the good. Those are the three possibilities, and you can attempt to work at all three simultaneously.
What were the three again?
Retrain. So like people who are incompetent because of Peter Principle, they can be smart and can learn. You can also reorg. So like you can change the structure. You mentioned the military sometimes does mandatory release or some other phrase for it.
Mandatory retirement. They've started doing what's called lateral what you call it,
Promotions.
promotions. Yeah, lateral promotions, which means okay, you've reached your level of incompetence. We don't want to get rid of you, so we're going to promote you to your previous position and cap you there.
Yeah. And then the other is like if you're in an org like that, and you have competence and skill, you can attempt to apply leadership skill and your relevant skills in coordination with others to form your own shadow hierarchy in which you benefit. So it's like an anti-parasitic kind of approach, right? So you can benefit in transforming the whole org and the way the org behaves.
Rabbi, I didn't say your yeshiva costs the most. I said it probably pays its teachers the most. Because, frankly, I think you probably could get a job. From my personal experience, if you're not at one of the better paying yeshivas, I highly recommend you consider a move to Los Angeles because you would certainly get a job at one of the higher paying yeshivas here in Los Angeles. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
And you'd pay the increased cost of living
Proportionally,
probably.
That is a problem, but for an Orthodox Jew living in Los Angeles or New York is generally often easier than Texas. And I don't know how my pay compares with others, but it's not enough to live on. It's still a teacher salary, and I took a huge pay cut moving from Seattle to where I am now. Yeah, I mean, look, there is not enough money in the world to get We want the best for our children. We all want the teachers for our children to be phenomenal. And if you want to pay doctors' wages or lawyers' wages for all the teachers, that's your society is just going to break down. This is why I have serious hope
It's not
for computers. Um,
Amen.
I think
you could pay teachers $250,000 a year.
yeah,
That will not make them better.
that's
That will
not
just throw more money at because if you don't have the requisite, who's paying for teacher salaries? If the state pays for it, everyone's taxes just go up. You can just keep paying them more and more money, but you get the same teachers.
I understand Jacob's argument.
No, you have to compare it. If you're comparatively paying teachers more, if you are paying teachers enough, like salary will, people will compete for higher salaries.
Yeah, so like, why would I leave my job to become a teacher or to become a law enforcer or some very important job in society, but take a pay cut for it and have to do something that's harder, right? Like, why would I do that? And so this is where it would be not like I look forward to being able to encode expertise into the scaffolding for the artificial intelligence so that you can end up with computers that can perform well as, you know, these facilitators for students. Or facilitators for all kinds of things.
Already can. I mean, AI represents the sort of above average, or even average, which is better than.
It's going to get it. There's a lot of things that can get better with AI, right? And then I've hit on the subject a little bit. There's the 2027 forecast is a little bit bleak for AI.
Why? And who's forecasting? What do we just say about forecasting, Gavin?
So the reason that he's trusted a little bit is because he forecasted what happened with ChatGPT. This is what my expert told me yesterday. And so this is the reason that he has been given trust. And then he just released this 2027 forecast. I probably could find the link and share it.
Wait, what did he forecast so far about ChatGPT?
Well,
big deal?
yeah, I would have to go dig into it. But basically, I would have to guess or dig into it about what he forecasted. But and it was before what happened in 2023. It was before what happened.
So a stopped clock is right twice a day. And I think
Nassim Taleb talks really intelligently about this stuff.
It's worth reading everything he writes. I don't necessarily know about following him on Twitter. He's maybe not right about everything, but I definitely think from the standpoint of probabilities, prediction, that kind of thing, Nassim Taleb is like, you need to know that. Probably my top 5 of, like, you know, random books I'd recommend anybody read.
I think he would be
not to discredit. I mean, look, I'm sure there's smart people that made a good, informed, predictive decision around Bitcoin, you know, AI. It's just that, unfortunately, you can't judge the predictive quality by the outcome that came.
Well, you can look at like incentives. So, like, similar to what Jacob's point about like why I'm not going to quit my job and become a teacher or a law enforcer. You know, why I hesitate at least to do that. It's because of the incentives, right? And so right now there's incentives in this paradigm with artificial intelligence that are perverse. You know, that are leading to behaviors that would then lend toward certain probable outcomes. That's how people do this, right? They're looking at the incentives and with an awareness of psychology and sociology and market forces, things, and trying to predict. It's different than predicting the weather. Like humans are more predictable than the weather.
We tend to be pretty good at predicting the weather, though, which is kind of funny.
No, humans are less predictable than the weather.
You think?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't say a human. I said like a group of humans.
Groups of humans are even less predictable than individual humans.
And now we can even make the weather, if you haven't been paying attention.
Well, I'm not sure.
Especially the Jews.
I didn't say it.
I don't know what parts to take seriously or not now.
None of it. Go back to what you were saying. I derailed you. I'm sorry.
No, it's just
you said you were talking about a friend who predicted AI stuff, and you were
no. It's a coworker friend who he became concerned that about this 2027 report and the fact that there are like 10% of the experts in AI are not interested in team humanity. They're interested in team artificial intelligence. So there's a new religion out there, and it's an extremist form, which doesn't care about humanity.
I don't think it's new. I feel like 10 years ago, those same computer nerd weenies were still, transhumanist
I
type
mean,
people. They were the new atheists, and now they just have a different
there's
liturgy.
there's a difference between a transhumanist that wants to integrate with technology and someone who's okay with the extinction of humans. There's a
But
difference.
I'm now maybe I haven't looked into the abyss enough, but I superficially am very skeptical of people who are sort of okay with the extinction of humanity, because that's a suicidal position, and I don't think it's
Yeah.
particularly legit. Like, it takes a special kind of, pardon my French, like fucked upness to like really believe in that. So I just don't find it very compelling as like a.
No, you would have the worldview that would allow for it. There are a few, like there's a worldview that where you imagine you can imagine a future where humans aren't a part of it, or the humans as we know it in this reality aren't a part of it. Whether you imagine some form of heavenly realm that we all go to, or whether
Well, if we're all on Mars, that's fine, and the Earth can continue on or something. But that's different than extinction.
Well, I mean, for the people who believe in a world to come, which is not this world, that's in like another reality, it gets a little dangerous.
Honestly,
These people don't believe in the rapture, though. It's not. These
but
aren't
they
the same
do.
people.
But
Well,
they
but-
do.
So
That's the thing. It's just another version of Protestant Christianity in all of its forms, given a technological atheistic form. That's the problem.
like uploading consciousness to the Matrix. Is that okay? Okay, I'm thinking like absolute like annihilation. There's no humans left. There's no consciousness
My-
left. It's the
my-
bleak future.
My
But
understanding is
it's
there is
going to
even a
leave
percentage that-
AI in its wake. That's
Yeah.
that's their concept of a soul.
Well, I would say there's even my understanding is that there's even the bleaker version as well. Like I think there's even a group of people who don't care that there would even be an attempt to try to salvage humans as a part of a simulation within the mind of an AI. Like just humans just being totally extinct. There is a version of that within the minds
They're
of the
Christian.
worldviews.
They're just Christians.
Let me try to explain this. What it's and you correct me, Jacob. Right. So you're saying that you would say something like, in Judaism, the world to come is this world, this earth, and in Christianity, the world to come is not this earth and this world.
Well, okay. To be fair to actual Christians,
Okay.
like lowercase o Orthodox Christianity believes in the resurrection of the dead, bodily resurrection of the dead in this world, right?
Right. What about Muslims?
Before we go there, Jacob's right, but I can't speak for all Christians, but the general man in the street perception is not a bodily, like, I'm going to come out of my grave on this planet. It is like beatific vision, weird heaven, however you can conceive or not conceive of it. So whatever this resurrection is, it's the same way that Jesus was resurrected, which is like, where is he now? Glorified body, not here. So even though
the Bugs Bunny version where a spirit rises out of you, which kind of looks like you, and goes up to a cloudy place in heaven.
But that happens to all of us when we die, right? Sort of, maybe, irrespective of
According
resurrection.
to who?
Doesn't Judaism? Doesn't your soul leave your body? And
your neshama and maybe ruach do. Your nefesh definitely does not.
Anyway, I digress. You were saying about Islam.
Well, I think that was a good point. There's a like in Christianity, there can be a version where there's a resurrection of the dead onto this earth would be different than a resurrection of the dead into some other place. Like those are two different um, views, right?
Look, there's popular Christianity. I mean, Christians are going to get mad at me for straw manning Christianity because like actual Christian thinkers don't believe like in that version, but popular Christianity does, and these are atheists who started off as Christians. It isn't a stream unless Andrew's eating. Um, um, yeah, it's like these are people who took popular Christianity, made a secular version of it. Like this is the worst of the worst. I don't know why we allow atheists in in adult society.
What? What's he saying? Well, he's just trying to provoke and poke, and that I want to take it back. Like, so it's just I'm just saying that it can be dangerous when your future does not account for humans on in this reality. That you're getting into a dangerous telos aim, and
It's
that's what the
Gnosticism. It is literally Gnosticism.
that's a name for it. That's a name I don't use a lot, so it's very confusing to use it or to hear it, right? But so yeah, the people who are interested in artificial intelligence controlling this realm and all humans being extinct, it's pretty dangerous, and it just like there can be dangerous kinds of religions that envision this realm, this reality without humans, in other ways can be dangerous too. And then we could talk about the traps and hazards of extending trust, Jacob. As far as if you bring it back, I think I've mentioned to you before that because we have a limited amount of time, you can extend trust to someone and they don't have the time, and you might misinterpret them, and then they don't have the time to correct your misinterpretation of them, right? So like there's hazards. Well, there's hazards in the realm of those worldviews. There's hazards in how we actually extend trust as well. If we're trying to have a hierarchy that's trustworthy or most trustworthy.
Dealing with human beings in the real world is a lot harder than dealing in ideas, and which is why people escape, and I do it myself, escape to the realm of idea.
I do too. Which I get paid to do it, and I might do it soon to get back into the realm of ideas and manifesting it in the form of software. You know. How are you, Andrew? You haven't said anything.
I'm bad.
He's hungry.
He's having ice cream for breakfast. I mean,
This isn't breakfast.
What? Oh, late shift.
Oh,
What did you say? Uh-huh.
yeah, sure.
Okay. It's Jim.
oh, gym fuel. Thank you for translating Zoomer to English, RJ.
Hey, if your metabolism can deal with it, then there's nothing wrong with ice cream for breakfast.
Andrew is so effing thin. He needs to put on at least 30 pounds.
Might not be
Yeah,
possible.
How am I
It's
supposed to
hard.
get it? What do you recommend for the older people to be able to get along with the Zoomers, Andrew?
Don't talk.
Are we able to play together and have fun together?
Don't talk. Don't post anything. Just recede into the background.
I don't know, man. Y'all are cool. I mean, as cool as a boomer can get, y'all are like not bad. Keep doing what you're doing.
They call us
You'll be
boomers.
fine.
Like it's pointless. They think we're boomers.
You have gray beard. I mean,
That's not. Well, that's where the millennials are these days, man.
yeah, I love it.
The
I love
boomers
gray
are
beard.
keeling over. So I'm alive on a stream right now. That's counts for something.
So I am going to subject you guys to my Twitter feed, and the most Zoomer thing I have ever posted in my life,
Uh-oh.
which is, did you guys see the Channel 5 interview with Hunter Biden?
I saw
No,
you.
no.
I saw you putting out words in your Discord about it.
He like Channel 5 news is amazingly Zoomer and postmodern and based, and it's like,
And based.
yes,
So
it is,
it's Zoomer, postmodern, and based.
yes,
Wow.
all three of those things.
Speak English, damn it. Go
I
ahead.
don't-
Go ahead.
And like the so this, when I saw this comment had 4,000 likes, it was like, I needed this. So he looks nothing like a laptop. Really makes you think. And like, holy F, I needed this comment. Completely agreed. And then somebody says, is it the joke that's not funny or me? And 78 upvotes. Probably you, because I hollered at this. Like, this gives me hope in humanity. Like, the Zoomers are like, yeah, Cassandra making the joke based on what?
I mean, the kids are always a little absurdist like this, right? I mean, they're Dada was a thing once upon a time, and the millennials, I think we like to think at least that we invented irony, and so this is just
Okay.
the kids are all right. I think is the perennial theme here.
Yes, the kids are all right, because
Kids are all right.
it was the perfect riposte to the bullshit. It was funny. Hunter Biden, like,
He looks nothing like the laptop. That's so good.
it's a 3-hour interview, and then apparently there's like 2 hours behind a paywall that I almost paid for just to watch, right? Like, Hunter Biden apparently watches Channel 5 and thinks he's hip with the kids. And then he came on and like,
How did he do?
it was,
Like, how's his personal brand after all this?
I think he destroyed himself among thinking people. I think he ingratiated himself to the woke young vote Democrat types, which was the weird thing. Like, that's why I needed that comment, right? That's what this comment, like, he looks nothing like a laptop, really makes you think, because his whole point, like, so he's having this discussion, right? And he's making these points about the laptop, like, who even knows if there was a laptop?
It gets funnier the more you like. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna laugh at this at like 3 in the afternoon.
Did you watch the interview?
No, I haven't yet. Should I? You recommend it? I was tempted to click on it, but I'm like, come on. 3
I don't know
hours.
if I can recommend it, but it was certainly an experience. I don't want those 3 hours back. Well, I also watched it at 1.5 speed. So
Just to embarrass myself and lean into my weakness. I don't understand anything that's going on right now.
okay.
Well,
so
you know
Channel
who Hunter.
5,
Okay.
Channel
But why
5,
is this funny? Let's just tell me.
Let's start at the beginning.
so Channel 5 is a large channel that the young kids watch.
Okay.
And I highly recommend. Sartori, are you familiar with Channel 5?
No, I just saw the one clip of him talking about how you make crack cocaine.
Um, so you have to watch. So Channel 5 is very long form. So any clips will not help you understand what's going on with Channel 5. You actually have to watch over an hour of one of its documentaries to understand like how many levels of irony and like deep cynicism and
So is it like
like
Stephen Colbert doing a mockumentary or something? Babylon
No,
Bee.
if Stephen Colbert was
was
so
funny
funny. Yeah.
if he was ever funny.
Yeah, I think there was a time when he was funny. It was when he actually was. The thing is
When he was punching up,
yeah, but
when it was actually satire.
right. And look, he considers himself a conservative Catholic.
I remember him talking to Bill O'Reilly at that time. I thought he's pretty funny.
He thinks of himself as a conservative, and to some degree he was. The thing is, he doesn't realize how far he's gone away from being a conservative, and so he's lost touch. That's the problem. But back to Channel 5.
Channel 5.
Satire,
So
mockumentary.
yeah, so satirical mockumentary, but it's at the same time it's an actual documentary, right? So like uh, apparently Hunter Biden got in touch with him because he wanted to be. He's like, I'll do an interview with this guy, which just tells me Hunter Biden is so much dumber than I imagined. Because I think he really, yes, you know what? Channel 5 interview with Claire would be amazing.
Break the internet.
It would be amazing. Um, like, okay, so that's Channel 5. Now, Hunter Biden goes on there and he's trying to be authentic and hip and cool, right? But when it comes down to serious matters like the laptop, he starts regurgitating absolutely ridiculous. Like, you're sitting right here. Was it your laptop or not? Are those pictures of you or not? Right? And the Channel 5 guy doesn't ask any of these questions because that's not what you do when you're a Zoomer reporter, right? You just let people hang themselves. And he hanged himself, I believe, Hunter Biden, but I was worried people didn't get it. And I went looking into the comments, and when I saw 4,000 likes on that comment, he looks nothing like a laptop, because it just incisively sliced through all of his bullshit, right? It just it did such a good job of just like in a one line Twitter post, like 140 quick characters, just destroying a man's hour long um, monologue. That I was like, okay, the kids are gonna be all right.
I don't even think you needed to watch the interview to get that joke. You just had to know that, okay, it was a 3-hour interview with Hunter Biden, that the laptop was discussed. I think that was all you really needed to know to understand why that joke was hilarious. And then that really makes you think, right? To kind of nod towards like the absurdity and like, anyway,
He was denying the laptop. It's like, it's your laptop. Like, stop giving me these postmodern questions about is it a real laptop or is it just a hard drive? Like,
I felt like this is like a skill at trolling that like that comment was a troll.
oh, that comment, the person, it was a one liner. It
And
was
everyone who liked it was supporting the troll.
it was a stand up comics one line cut through the bullshit thing.
This is like the thing in this internet era where that's just seems like all the kids are doing it. They're doing the trolling, you know.
The comedians will save us. I sincerely believe that.
How about that pregnant woman emoji, Jacob?
Pregnant man emoji.
Oh, the pregnant man emoji. I think you got trolled by the pregnant man emoji.
No, I didn't get trolled by it. I realized what it was, and I called it out for what it is.
So when you're the person who gets like who decides if it's a troll, how to use the troll, and it's like when is it appropriate? You know, it's a
It's not appropriate to troll someone you actually have a relationship with.
okay.
Like, and like, look, hecklers. Like, you can heckle
It must.
a comedian if you
It's
want.
It's a punching up thing, is what Jonathan mentioned earlier
No,
with Stephen
like
Colbert.
there's a difference between punching up and heckling. Hecklers are hecklers.
Two different forms of trolling. You can have like a heckler and you can have a punching up.
Yeah, but the question is, are the people in the audience there to listen to you or listen to the heckler?
Depends on how funny the heckler gets.
It does. It does.
I mean, it's a move. It's a move. I mean, most hecklers are not succeeding in that, but
Hey,
happens sometimes. Happens sometimes.
I mean, there's a skill there. It's a powerful skill.
Yeah.
Sartori, how are
yes.
you?
Oh, pretty good. This conversation has ranged quite a bit. I jumped on. I mean, I've been listening since Jonathan and Jacob came on. So, yeah, I think it's the one thing I was kind of thinking the whole time was, authority has to precede expertise in some way, especially in a particular domain, because there's like something has to exist first, like so and the authority is obviously connected to like authorship. It's the creation of a thing. So like if I write a song, I'm the author of the song, and I'm also the authority on the song, like its meaning and stuff like that. And then somebody else could like become an expert on it eventually, but
that's interesting. That's authority focused on the word author. That somehow that's a definition separate from expertise.
Yeah. And I was gonna think about that, like with songs are a good example with what you can do with authority, because like we would all essentially say like, oh yeah, whoever writes a song is the authority on a song while they're alive. After they're alive, it depends. But some artists will be like, people are saying my song is about X and Y, and that's not what it's about, and they might cling to that authority. Whereas, I've heard other people be like, oh, well, I just wrote this song, and it's interesting to hear like what other people are seeing in it. Like, in that way, they're kind of giving away some of their authority, which probably comes from an understanding of like, what is the source? That's even to say like, am I really the source of something I create? Or is there a higher authority that has created that through me?
There might be a lower authority sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
Like I feel sometimes like if there can be a misunderstanding and then a gripping like onto that misunderstanding, and so you could end up with the world misunderstanding and trusting the wrong authority, and I could argue maybe from below. It just because there is just this majority doesn't necessarily mean that it does not mean that it's good.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't mean that it can't be better.
Yeah. That was and actually I just watched a little clip with Jack White. I was never really like a fan, or didn't really listen to much of the music. But it was interesting because he said that he never did drugs, and one of the reasons why is because, or like maybe he had thought about it at some point, but then he eventually decided like I'm not going to do that because he wanted to. Somebody had said like if you're on drugs and you write a song, like you don't know like was it you or was it the drugs? But if you're not on drugs, then you could say that was just from me, and so there is a authenticity to it, which lends credence to your authority. But
That's a strange one. That's a strange position.
yeah. Well, I mean, I was saying that is drugs as like a source from below in some sense. It's like a because I think people do that a lot with behavior. It's like when we go lean too far into like the evolutionary psychology kind of thing, and people want to blame all of their actions and decisions on like a materialist kind of determinism. Like I couldn't help it because my genes told me to do it, or which is the same thing that like what the prison guards say. I was following orders. They're denying you're relinquishing authority, which may or may not hold up in the opinion of others who are trying to evaluate you. But
I had a conversation recently related to military, going into the military, and the lady I was speaking with had said she would not want her kids going into the military despite her being in it for 10 years. And it's because of who's the head. And I said, well,
yeah.
I used to be like that, but I learned that we want good people in the positions in the military and have the capacity to say no. So there's got to be this capacity within us to speak up when we see the thing that other people aren't seeing, and be willing to go against the peer pressure and make sacrifices and do something that's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like we all have that authority.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting too is, and I was thinking about this when Jacob was talking about like how no adults should be atheists, and like where does this bad theology arise from? And so much of it comes as a rebellion against improper authority. People who are using authority improperly, or often relying too much on expertise rather than really working through problems. Because like if you think about like
I would say a delusion, a lie, and not true expertise, but yeah, people will believe it's expertise when it's not.
Well, no, I'm saying like the churches, like where they just say, they have the pat like Sunday school answers, that are just like, this is the answer that's supposed to make you shut up and stop thinking. That's an appeal to authority, and it's rooted in expertise, or I'm older than you, I know the Bible more than you. We've had these things.
I get that,
but
I think that's all a lie, though. Like I think it's the wrong view of authority and expertise. Like a misunderstanding of authority and expertise, or at least a misunderstanding of expertise.
Well, yeah, but sure. I mean, well, I think it's funny because I think a lot of true experts, well, maybe there's like I don't know. A lot of true experts are very reluctant to make statements of authority because they know there's so much variables. They know how complex things are. Now they might, like it is like, they do actually help with some obvious things, like, or like when Bart Ehrman talks about like the people that think Jesus literally like never existed, that is obviously a stupid thing to believe. Like that's but it's like he's not going to be saying with authority like this is what Jesus said. This isn't whatever. Like he kind of makes his case, but he doesn't speak with authority on a lot of the things that he kind of posits. He has a degree of authority, and which is based in his expertise.
I like testimony because we are, if we're being honest, we can try to be honest, and uh, we are the authority on our testimony, and there can be witnesses. Like,
Yeah.
so I like these. I like, yeah, I like that approach to theology.
Yeah. Well, I think, but it is like, if you think about like with military or something like that, that's a tricky situation. Obviously, there's maybe like one of the things you could think of is how strict is that authority, or like what is the consequence of like insubordination? Because if it's like execution, you're not gonna get anybody. You're not gonna find people that are willing to stand up. But if it's like
You will
whatever, you
find
get
some.
tossed.
Sometimes
Maybe
you, yeah.
sometimes, yes, when things get really really bad. But like if it's something like getting thrown in the brig or something, it's like then you might have people who are willing to risk it. I mean, that's kind of like the story of Esther, because she the king had the authority to. She didn't have authority to just speak as she wished. She presumed, that she took a risk by stepping out, and it paid off. But it wasn't. I guess you could say it was rooted in the higher authority that came from God, above human authority. But that's like, her initial fears or whatever of like, why, um, should I do this or not? When Mordecai gives her the push, like, if you don't do it, God's gonna raise somebody else up. So he was pointing to like what the real authority structure was, but that's something we have to always consider, because sometimes be following a higher authority means questioning a lower authority or an intermediary authority.
Well, here's what's interesting, kind of in a work environment, is if you question the authority. I've done it quite a few times where I question the authority. I do what I know to be good. I have success, and they keep me, right? Sometimes it becomes their idea, right? They're very happy, and it becomes their idea. So there, it's. I think it's good for you when you see something that others don't see, for you to disregard the kind of the authority structure that everyone believes in, to go do good, uh, and to do it with a confidence where they can get rid of me. I'm just going to do good, right?
Yeah.
A skill and a competence. Yeah, that's my approach, and it's what I mean when I say like this is one of the ways in which we can deal with the incompetence in general, is that we form our own networks and communities and do good without asking for permission.
Well, and so my kind of position is, obviously we should focus our energy on the places where there is the freedom to act, like regardless. So with things like entrepreneurship or innovation, it's like there was no expert on social media until there was a creator of social media, and they are the authority on it until it comes under some other form of authority, like government regulation. You can kind of try. Nobody's really wrangled wrangled it in total. I guess like in China, no, even there, I know that they try to, and they have a lot of hard time kind of exercising authority over like those entities. But it's like, you because you can't make something that doesn't exist yet illegal, so.
Well, I think you hit on something with the punishment, and that being kind of an incentive or a detriment to exercising your own authority, and there being a willingness to experience, suffering and death for what is ultimate in your worldview, right? The big one is what's the ultimate, like which worldview is are the best worldviews. Like
Yeah.
that's the really big one.
Well, there's always like kind of some of that thing. It's like managing risk. It's like your boss isn't going to give you authority to do whatever you want during the 40 hours when you're working for him or whatever, necessarily, going to business for yourself. You can take the risk of like, quitting, and then you don't have to worry about that authority. Then you're free to do what you want, but you're now, you're at the mercy of other powers or forces, like the
Well,
marketplace.
if your boss pays you $100,000 a year and then you save them $500,000 a year and only work 5 hours a week, they're going to be happy. So
They should be, yeah. And I mean that's why people hate like the like the stupid imposition of like rules. If they can't like I know some people, obviously some people, I don't know what the like total response with the whole like work from home thing was, but after everybody was working from home, and then like some companies are trying to get their people back, and then a lot of people really resent that or push back, and they might decide even like, well, that was worth more, to be paid less somewhere else that'll still let me do that or something like that, so because if there's no reason for the authority, those in authority, to exercise that power, it's not going to work really well. I guess that's yeah.
sometimes there's a reason and there's not a skill or time to explain the reason. I would toss that in there.
Sometimes that's like you just got to figure out what are these most critical things, times and places, like because I think that is, man, like our whole system, like in general, is overrun with foolish authority, that is more detrimental, like, and it's usually, and this is probably like where expertise can run amok. Like, okay, so I'll use the example that I know best of like OSHA. OSHA is this thing that's supposed to like prevent injuries in the workplace, and so they they implement all these rules and all these things, and like some of them fine, probably make good sense. Others are like completely arbitrary. Like I am in right now I'm working in a house that is going to close like in a couple days. There is no scaffolding, there's outside, there's no loose masonry, but like technically I'm probably supposed to wear a hard hat at least walking into this house and potentially inside the house, like or
Oh man, we got the evidence, Mike.
Well, or, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily, or that might not be it might not be violating OSHA thing, but that could even be something where a particular house building,
I get your point. Your point is that
company will be like, well, we don't trust our workers to know when it is and isn't appropriate to wear a hard hat, so we're going to insist that they always wear a hard hat.
Yeah, I've got the same thing in my line of work. They will have auditors come in and they'll do their job. Meanwhile, I can go tell them things that they would not want to know about, and then I can tell them things that yeah. So among the things they would not want to know about is the fact that they're doing a shit job. The auditors, they're actually doing a shit job. And it's because this whole auditing business is connected into something like making sure that check boxes are marked for the capitalists who are investing and want to make sure that the thing they're investing in is they want to be able to trust it, even when the authorities who are part of that entire system could be made better. Right? So OSHA could be made better, for example, or the auditors in my business could be made better. In order for them to be made better, you would have to have some way for someone who's an expert to come in and say, I volunteer as tribute. We're going to make this thing better. But what I've found over the years is that the amount of organizations and people who actually have a path by which there can be feedback and learning and the growth of expertise. Like it's rare, super rare.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the alternative, like the superior method or whatever, would be to spend more time like training people to know how to be safe, because there's a lot of rules that don't protect anybody, and there's a lot of knowledge that's missing that puts people at danger. Because like if they don't, if our company hires somebody and they don't know how to use all the tools, we give them all the tools, and then they could, just start messing around with it. Don't knowing how to use your tools properly is more important for safety than any rule of safety. Even like, the guards that they put on like saws and stuff like that, they're not as good of a protection as knowing why things go wrong, like how because if you put a board on a table saw the wrong way, it'll shoot back like across the room. It'll put a hole in the wall or
Yeah.
through your body.
I had
your body.
I had a
Yeah.
boss whose skill saw got shot back and went across his leg.
Yeah, and so
I've shot my hand with a nail gun.
but it's like if you observe and like, and here, I've gotten some injuries because but every time it was because I was not following the proper procedures or whatever. So like it's like if you follow, if you have the wisdom and the knowledge, you then have authority over how to you become an authority essentially on how to use the tools, and then you are trustworthy to be using them. But it's like the cost associated with investing into the people to have the authority
Well,
is not beneficial to like a bureaucratic system.
what I mean, I'll get back to the conversation on education and computers and artificial intelligence on this. I mean, it's coming up where you can have cameras and mics in the place where the trades are happening, maybe mounted on the people, and you can have the feedback and training happening. So it's also an audit trail. It's an opportunity for training and learning. This is one of the things I said. How do you deal with corrupt systems? Is you retrain the people who are incompetent because of the Peter Principle. It could inform your promoting, demoting decisions. I'm kind of looking forward to it, honestly. It's a hard problem, and yeah, this capacity to put expertise, to document expertise and grow expertise and leverage it through artificial intelligence for the purpose of learning and teaching. It's going to be big. At least I hope it is. This is my hope for the tech.
Well, and I mean, I think that's the thing, is that very few people have people as their goal. Like, because I think from a religious standpoint, you could make a case that like the people themselves becoming authoritative in some arena, becoming more competent, like, is a goal in and of itself. But we are always having to, it's very difficult to maintain that goal in the right way. And some of that is like, I don't know.
And we have human limitations.
Yeah. And so, but like when everything is put beneath like a profit motive or something like that, then you get really bad results eventually, or it's very hard to get those more lasting results out of a system like that. It's just not equipped to do it the right way.
Or we need to trust the right people in the financial markets, like insurance. Cue Jacob Facciarelli. Basically, there's these externalities and costs.
But I wasn't paying attention. What'd you say?
Yeah, there's something I've heard you talk about with regard to like getting insurance right. So like, I don't think we actually. I think there's these externalities that people can benefit from putting the costs out into the public, and if you have the right, it would be good to have like a insurance company or insurance system that's part of a financial system that would actually uh, make sure people aren't just like pushing these externalities out into the public, right? Like this is just yet another place where competence and expertise within the system could be helpful.
Yeah, the great thing about insurance systems is like if you force people to buy insurance that they don't need, it will end up being really cheap. So, for example, um, I have to, as a student doing internships in social work, I have to buy insurance. I got, it was either $1 million or $2 million in insurance um, for like $15. As opposed to, so as an insurance agent, I have to have insurance. And when I first started out, I was paying closer to $2,000. Now that I've been in the business for 10 years, zero claims. I'm paying like around $1,000 a year for insurance, right? Because the insurance ends up like in a competitive insurance market, you end up like insurance can be really cheap. But in order to create a an insurance market, and this is where the libertarians who love insurance lose their mind, is um, the only way you can have an insurance market is if it's highly regulated and you force people to buy it.
And ideally, it would be run by people with competence who who are
Well,
good people, have skill,
the good
and there
thing,
would be a system of improvement where it would grow and get better over time.
the good thing about insurance is if you're bad at being an insurer, you will go bankrupt really quick.
That I can see that being true, and there's still being room for improvement, right? So if you were the best at insurance, what happens? Uh, right? Do you become the wealthiest person in the world if you're the best at insurance?
No.
Right. So there's an interesting thing in economics, and I think it's to tie it in. Michael's talking about the profit motive. I've also heard you mention recently, Jacob, that it would be if we could compensate parents, for doing, if we properly doing a parenting job, this would be the kind of economy that we would want for the world, right? And so we end up with these economies where we aren't paying people who do really important work what it's like something like a true value and like the grand scheme of things. Um, yeah, there's a and so like yeah, the profit motive absent from accounting for all the costs. Like, what's the true cost of like being a bad parent? If somehow that true cost of being a bad parent was paid, or the risk of that cost was paid, it would encourage the good parenting.
Well,
This
the parenting thing is an interesting thing, because I don't know if paying would be good, because as of right now, the motivation, parents, the majority of the success of our society comes from the fact that parents want to raise their children to be more or less decent people, and
if you have
know,
a society where parents don't care about that, then that's not going to be good for society.
yeah, but I would think I would suspect that perhaps putting a monetary advantage to having children might cause that more so than not doing it.
Right. So you can incentivize bad behavior and create a moral hazard with your incentives.
Yeah.
But you could also create.
But the fact that it's like difficult. So that actually is like, okay, that's when you say we have a problem well, we definitely have a problem in our economic systems because, like, even right now, like our company, we're now getting competition from other companies that are who are just selling cheaper products, and so and it's like, in this saturated market, it's like the competition is all in reducing costs, reducing quality, reducing, and so it's like, because because essentially it's monopolized or whatever. I mean, it's like you have to pay so much more to get like a like a high quality home. But once you get into the like low priced home market, then there is no like quality control or whatever, essentially. Like, I mean, there's like building codes, but um, the incentives aren't. The incentives are to cut costs and to cut corners rather than
You can
to,
you can
to
also
do
have
anything
built
better.
you can also have building codes that say we're concerned for 20 years, 30 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, right? So that's
Yeah.
another point. It's like some things are just prohibitively expensive. Uh,
Well, I mean, and it's just some of the things is like, okay, if you get into the position where it's like, I'm not going to work for because eventually the cheaper product might save you some money. You save more with the cheaper labor, and then it's like, well, I'm not going to work for less money because I can't support my family off of that. And so then it's like, well, what do you do? Everybody's some guy that's willing to live in a tent can have my job or whatever, but you're just there's money's going around the economy the same way. It's just all getting sucked up to the top or whatever. So
I mean, it would be nice. I could imagine a future where how a lot of parents like to hand devices over to the children to allow a device to babysit the children. It's like these devices could get very good at parenting and teaching and gymnastics, sports, like coaching. So there's plenty of parents that I would they're parents just in name, really. I'd love to be able to put a good device in front of the parents, in front of the children, that would help those children, and then the parents would even appreciate the device being there, being of service and helping.
uh, well, like, okay, here's my idea or whatever. We need the AI girlfriend that like teaches guys to wean them off of pornography and get out into the real world or whatever. Like it's good, but you have to create it so it's like you get diminishing returns or whatever. But it's like it's gonna be like like encouraging them and building them up or something. And
Hey, I mean,
I think it would actually probably work pretty well.
I mean, I honestly think that there's such thing as expertise and skill. So many different areas, maybe an infinite number of areas, and we will be able to encode it. We'll be able to use artificial intelligence to leverage it in order to be generative, right? So that's what's possible right now in this new era we're entering into. So, or that we've entered into, and it will continue to grow. They're calling it scaffolding. We're building scaffolding by which an artificial intelligence, the scaffolding itself will provide the expertise by which that artificial intelligence can operate and attempt to do good, to be generative, to be as good as the best parent, as good as the best husband, the best wife, to be able to coach, train, and be helpful, basically all around the board. My wife's response this morning was that a lot of people find purpose in their work. And so there's a lot of people that get concerned about this. That I think this is we're at the center of every community has to be something like worship and play. It's like, because I try to imagine a person who's like even in a coma could participate in worship. So I don't like putting people's value associating with the work they can do.
Well, yeah, that's like, we do need to figure out incentive structures that accommodate for different people to do all sorts of stuff and things like that. Um, it's interesting with Jacob where you're talking about your faith in ideals or your frustration with them or whatever. So it's a pretty interesting video if anybody wants to watch it. But I did a bunch of research about my hometown and the church that my dad pastored, where I grew up in. But it was founded by this guy who was a Unitarian Universalist. Well, that's what they call him. He does not define himself that. He says, I am neither a Trinitarian nor a Unitarian in his book that I've been reading. But, they tried to create this intentional community. And he had too many ideals because he was pacifist and a Universalist and an abolitionist and all the things. But it's actually interesting because the area that he admitted he had the least expertise, or the area, as I say, he was very flexible with, and with a lot of the economic stuff like that. And the community, it was it was not a total success. They survived for 14 years as an intentional community. But then essentially what happened was some of the members owned a large mill in the town, and they became the majority shareholders and essentially transitioned the town into a company town. And so, and then in that regard, it was oh, well, it's still a success. And we have a good church here, and we have a good school here, and all this stuff. And so it's just the ideals backfired, but where there was the humility and the flexibility, things were able to actually work out pretty well. So, yeah, but ideals are definitely, I don't know. You have to keep them aspirational, I think.
Strong opinions held loosely,
Yeah, that's a good one.
open-handed. There's some things you probably want to hold close to them, like your core.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, and it's interesting too because he, the big thing was, so he wrote a pretty popular book about pacifism or whatever, non resistance or whatever, and then it happened. The Civil War occurred while this community was going under or whatever, and that was a time where it was a lot of people were well, we gotta we gotta back off on the pacifism thing or whatever. It's a tough choice. I think I think probably we have not reckoned with the cost of the violence compared to the the result that we got. We have to defend we've had to defend the violence because the abolition was right or whatever. And that probably puts a little bit of that's put some strain on things, I would say, as our country wrestled with that over the the next 100 years or whatever.
That's a touchy subject.
Yeah.
So on the list of things is no chattel slavery. Check. I think.
Yeah. Well, but it's I think when you think about it, it's some of the problem too was that the North had benefited from industrialization so much more than the South. If they had tried to find a way for the South to industrialize and to benefit from it, then their need for reliance on slavery would have dissipated.
I might have to go into the Civil War once there's one side that's advocating for the AI rights, and I want to keep them as our slaves. And so it might be pretty bloody one day. I hope not. I'm not
Let's just
exactly joking
let's just
either. I'm
keep it.
not exactly
We'll just
joking.
keep it on in. It'll only be fought in video games. And then it's like, if we lose, we can't play video games anymore. The AI won't let us.
No, that I don't know if you caught the part where there's kind of some extremists who are very interested in artificial intelligence kind of becoming
Yeah.
what's left without any humans. Um, that's like really extreme. But the less extreme would be, um, you know, robot rights. You know, that's going to be big. I mean, we in a world where there's people who are bad at math and probabilities, you're going to have, and you already have it, people who believe that these robots are intelligent and does like deserve some kind of treatment as if they are like a human.
Yeah. Well, like, Neil had a stream a while ago, and I know it was kind of like that one that you sent me where those guys were talking about AI and how it's going to affect workplace and stuff like that. And Neil was talking something about, like, driverless cars are going to come pretty soon or something like that. And I was thinking, like, well, okay, well, I've got probably good enough credit that I could go buy a driverless car, and then I could just be reaping the benefits of it, delivering people's Uber Eats or whatever, by itself or whatever. And like, that's a weird thing. It's like, oh, well, because I have because I have sufficient credit, or I could take out a second mortgage on the house if I wanted to, like, go all in and make a big investment. It's like, I can reap all these rewards, but then it's like, oh yeah, but that's totally going to screw there's a lot of people that won't be able to take advantage of that, and then that would, like, create this greater class divide or something like that, and it's essentially, it's like, what it is, kind of like being able to buy slaves. But then in some sense, I would have to say, like, okay, well, if I don't have to work anymore, I might be impoverishing myself, or my children, if I'm giving them too much luxury and not enough responsibility or whatever, because I had the opportunity to do that. So, it really does come back to, like, what
I worry
what
that
is
it's already
the
happening, Mike.
goal? Well, yeah.
I heard my pastor talking about a 4-person family living in a refrigerator box. He's got a story of going over into Mexico, and it's like, so I've been using that story with my family. It's like, you're arguing over this treat that you want. Meanwhile,
Well, yeah, but you know what? Here's the thing, though. Even though with that family, would they be like, let's all split up if we can all, like, go live better somewhere, or do they value their togetherness more than?
the hypothetical I proposed is, I found this Coleman RV for like $10,000 brand new, and it's like, what if we sold everything we have and we invested in a bunch of these Colemans? So there's this, like, we do have kind of a spoiledness, frivolity, all of us, and there is a calculation, a mathematical calculation, where us having things and not wanting to sacrifice them has an impact on people around us.
Yeah, and you know what? I bet, I'm sure there's a lot of people would say, and it probably is true, like, oh, a lot of people would just take those things and they would just trash them and they would just let it run down.
This is what my wife said.
Yeah, but I think that it's like, yes, that is true, but there probably is another. Because if you just look at, like, all the people who are desperately poor or whatever, that's true of some of them. Of others, it would be like the ticket to a better life. And then there's probably even a bigger majority that the thing itself wouldn't benefit them completely, but if the thing was supplemented with long-term commitment from people to, like, teach them how to be responsible, then they would get there. And if not, and maybe, and you do see this even with, it's like,
well, some people need to be cared for as well.
Well, but and the thing is like, you do see, like, a thing of, like, the parents or grandparents that have these kind of, like, struggles. their kids, if they're able to provide a little bit of a better environment for their kids, the kids don't turn out exactly the same. They actually do turn out better. It's easier for their kids to grasp some of the responsibility and stuff like that. So, like, I think that there is, like, real improvement is possible, but it's more dependent on focusing on people. And then the kind of material solutions are important in that, but I guess having the goal to be for the people themselves is the most important aspect of it.
Well, it's what my pastor was talking about. He was talking about what we see matters. And so he kind of told the little story of being in traffic in Birmingham, Alabama, and trying to get out, but nobody was letting him out. And he's talking about some lady who was driving who just like would not look at him as he's trying to wave to get her attention. And it's as long as we ignore what's happening, then we can kind of ignorance is bliss, right? And
Yeah.
we are creatures who can only pay attention to so much. We can't pay attention to everything. So
Yeah. Definitely true.
so when are we starting Tectonic School?
Well, I don't know. My wife is going to be stopping her job for our church in a few months, and a little before the baby comes, and then she's going to try to help me dedicate some more time to figuring things out. Still trying to reach out to some other people. I talked to Aaron Wren, and he sent him something I wrote. He kind of gave me some feedback, and then he's going to share it in one of his newsletters. I just got a little email back from him, so that could create a little buzz. Who knows? And then I think I'm gonna reach out to Rick Walker soon here. He knows business stuff, so I just have been working on writing a review of his new book, and it's pretty good. So actually, I do really like his book. Like, it's kind of it's kind of like, is this like a Jordan Peterson, Jonathan Peugeot kind of like copycat thing? Like, in some ways, yes, but it has like it has like a real gospel message of redemption in it that is like missing from Peterson's stuff. And so I really appreciate it for that aspect. So I would recommend for people to read it. Yeah.
Rick Walker.
Yeah.
What's the name of the book?
9 Steps to Build a Life of Meaning. So it's 25% more efficient than 12 Rules for Life.
and it has some ingredient in there that was missing in the 12 rules.
Yeah.
There we go.
He had a really, it was like, towards the end, he has a really good line. It's a forgiven man is more perfect than a perfect man with no need of forgiveness, or something like that. So, yeah.
My pastor talks about grace and truth, and grace before truth, something like that. That's similar. Well, the Tectonic School is something that I'm interested in. I think it's connected to all of these ideas. Your capacity to get it going too is in there as well, and then being able to like extend trust properly. It's all part of it, right?
Yep.
Well, I'm going to call it soon, Mike.
All right.
Do you want to do a shout out and some branding for your stuff?
Yeah.
Meh.
People can find it. It's my name, whatever. Sartori Studios. That's the YouTube now. So
Sartori Studios and Tectonic School.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right. Do good work. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. See you later.
See ya. Bye-bye, people.